Carnival of Horror, the Chimera House. Jevin didn't want to leave the carnival immediately. He knew that he'd been brought here for some reason or another. Leaving before he knew where he was or the fuller extent of what he could do was probably dangerous. He found himself lost in thought as he sat over at the corner of the park, and it was only when a hand tapped his shoulder that he came back to the reality of what he found himself in. It was a woman. She had long black hair, topaz-like brown eyes, and a white medical mask covering her mouth. She recalled her hand to cover her masked mouth as she whispered.
"I'm sorry,"
she said.
"I was curious about if you knew where we were."
Her voice was soft enough that Jevin had to focus on listening to her. He shrugged his shoulders, turned away, and settled even deeper into his seat. The woman reached out again, and this time got her question out before it could be stifled by her bashful nature.
"I've had trouble with something else. My boyfriend, it's weird."
She was flustered and waved both hands in the air to dismiss the conversation. They both sat there in silence for a little while longer, until the woman again intruded into Jevin's space with a sudden question.
"It's just honest opinion. Do you think I'm pretty?"
The air fell silent. Jevin stewed on the circumstances for a moment, and then turned to face the woman. "What I said for the clown is true for you too." They looked at each other, cloaked in silence again. The woman's smile crept out from the mask in the form of a large, bloody silhouette. It pushed through the mask and greeted Jevin as if it were a person in their conversation as well.
"Let's skip to the good part then, Mr. Jackson."
She got up, reaching out to him to follow her. She grabbed his hand and directed him to follow her towards the house at the far end of the carnival grounds. It was old, surrounded by a group of clowns that welcomed them to the porch.
"You finally come home."
The clown from earlier showed his face again.
"I'm your wonderful master of ceremonies, Cecil."
He bowed to the audience, clapping for himself and playing the rest of the clowns up into a frenzy. Jevin was not amused. Cecil saw this and stopped the celebration, opened his arms in a wide pattern to welcome them into the house.
"Let's get this show on the road, Mr. Jackson."
He smiled, waiting for Jevin to move.
"After all, where the fuck else are you supposed to go?"
Blistering laughter erupted from the clown as he turned to Jevin's sarcasm back on him. Jevin walked up the steps, his nose turned up again at the crowd of jeering clowns who wished him to cross the border of the door into the house.
"Find a way out, and we'll talk about it."
Jevin crossed the doorway, closed the door behind him. When he turned around, he noticed that he was not inside of a house, but he was now standing in front of a building. Union Station. The air was the same as when he was pulled from home. Fall had set down on the city hard this year, soon giving way to what they had forecast to be a harsh winter. The streets were bare. He saw a few lights down the road and the occasional car. It was all very out of character for Chicago. He walked through the doors of the station, singing to himself in a low and deep voice. He loved the music passed down from his father's radio. He carried the songs on his breath and sang them low. Autumn tones of Anita rode the winds of winter and warmed him. His voice trailed off into the caverns of the station, and he was made calm by a shower of memories. All of the calm wrapped around the air, and he breathed and caused everything to stop. It rained ashes inside of the station. and a dense fog fell over the benches and the halls. His voice continued to hit the air, parting the veil with its vibrations. He wandered down the halls and came to a doorway with a small card on it. The card had some writing. It was a note for him. Every door is a chance to lose yourself, but you'll never make it out by playing it safe. How much of yourself are you willing to give up to get out?